They called it the Karton, the cardboard kite, a flimsy, underpowered joke. The aces of the Luftwaffe laughed when the first P-51 seconds tried to climb to their altitude. But by 1944, no one was laughing. They were running. This is the story of how a failed fighter was given a new heart and swept the masters of the sky from their own airspace. October 14th, 1943, 25,000 feet, over Schweinfurt, Germany. You are 21 years old, gripping the yoke of a B-17 flying fortress named Murder Incorporated. The air inside the cockpit is minus 40 degrees. Your sweat has frozen to the sheepskin collar of your jacket. Outside, the sky is a painfully clear, hostile blue, crisscrossed by the black-grey smudges of flak bursts. You are deep in enemy territory, deeper than any fighter escort can fly with you. An hour ago, you watched them. The little friends, hundreds of P-47 Thunderbolts, your guardians, waggled their wings and peeled off, their fuel tanks running dry. You are now alone, and they are rising to meet you. Hauptmann, Captain Gunther Metzler of Jagdgeschwader, 3 levels off his Fokker-Wulf 190, at 28,000 feet, 3,000 feet above the bomber stream. He looks down on the American boxes with a practiced, predatory calm. His Staffel squadron is arrayed behind him, a pack of wolves waiting for the signal. This is what the Americans call Black Thursday. For Metzler, it is simply the hunt. He's seen the new American fighters, the ones with the sleek nose and the big air scoop under the belly. The P-51 Mustang. His intelligence officers had warned they might show up. Metzler has engaged them twice. He is not impressed. The first time, near the coast, he was stunned by its speed on the deck. It was faster than his 190, a shocking realization. But the second time, the American pilot made a fatal mistake. He tried to follow Metzler into a high-altitude climb. Metzler remembers the sight clearly. The Mustang pitched up, its shark-like nose pointing at the sun, and then it just died. The plane seemed to wallow, its engine gasping for air that wasn't there. It became a sluggish, helpless target. Metzler's 20mm cannons had turned it into a cloud of aluminum confetti. Back at the base, over stale beer, his pilots had coined the name, Was ist das? Ein Karton, a cardboard box. It was flimsy. It was weak where it mattered. The P-51A and the ground attack A-36 Apache variant were a joke to the Experten of the Reichsverteidigung, defense of the Reich. The problem, the fatal flaw, was its heart. The American Allison V-1710 engine. It was a robust, powerful engine below 15,000 feet, but the air war for Germany was not being fought at 15,000 feet. It was being fought in the thin, frozen stratosphere where the B-17 seconds flew. Up here, the Allison's single-stage supercharger simply couldn't compress enough air. The engine's horsepower fell off a cliff. A fighter that cannot fight at the bomber's altitude is not an escort, it is a spectator. And for the B-17 cruise over Schweinfurt, there were no spectators, only victims. Gunther Metzler gives the signal. Angriff! His Furv 190, powered by its BMW radial engine built for the high-altitude intercept, rolls over. He rockets down into the formation, cannons blazing, ignoring the 50 caliber scare guns lashing out from the bombers. He is aiming for the engines, the wing roots, the cockpit. The Americans are defenseless. They have no Karton escorts here. They have nothing. That day, Black Thursday, the 8th Air Force sends 291 bombers. 60 are shot down. Another 17 are so badly damaged they crash or are scrapped upon landing. Over 600 American airmen are lost. It is a statistical and human catastrophe. The Luftwaffe Experten are jubilant. Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring, who once boasted no enemy plane would ever fly over the Reich, is vindicated. His aces have proven that the American bomber formations can be broken. The Karton Mustang is a failed experiment. The P-47 Thunderbolt is too short-legged. The P-38 Lightning is too mechanically fragile. The skies over Berlin, over all of Germany, belong to the Luftwaffe. But across the Channel, in a damp airfield in Duxford, England. A few very quiet, very skeptical British test pilots have been fiddling with an idea. An American air attaché, Colonel Mark Pete Peterson, had seen the P-51A and thought, good airframe, rubbish engine. A Rolls-Royce test pilot named Ronnie Harker had the same thought, and a more specific one. What if we put our engine in it? What if they took the magnificent, high-altitude heart of their own, Spitfire, the legendary Rolls-Royce Merlin, and surgically implanted it into the American cardboard kite? The idea was madness. It was unauthorized. It was brilliant. And it would soon turn the laughter of the Luftwaffe into a shriek of disbelief. Winter 1943, Hucknall Aerodrome, England. The light is grey and weak. The tarmac is slick with a freezing drizzle. Inside a drafty, unheated hangar, a team of Rolls-Royce engineers huddles around a bare metal P-51A. They are mechanics, not surgeons, but what they are attempting is nothing short of a Frankensteinian transplant. The airframe, designated Mustang Mk.X, serial number AL 975, is a thing of beauty. Its laminar flow wing is a masterpiece of aerodynamic science, designed to slice through the air with minimal drag, but its nose is a gaping wound. The 1,100 horsepower Allison V1710 has been ripped out. Beside it on a greasy stand sits the solution, a Rolls-Royce Merlin 61. This isn't just an engine swap. It's a fundamental reimagining of the aircraft. The Merlin is physically different, its plumbing, its wiring, its soul. The engineers are cursing and wrestling with 1,000 small, frustrating incompatibilities, but they are driven by a single, revolutionary piece of technology bolted to the back of that Merlin. The two-stage, two-speed intercooled supercharger. To the Luftwaffe experte like Gunter Metzler, an engine is an engine. He's wrong. To the B-17 crewman fighting for his life at 25,000 feet, the Allison V1710 is an anchor. Its single-stage supercharger is like a man with only one lung, trying to sprint a marathon at the top of Mount Everest. It simply cannot draw in enough of the thin, frozen air to mix with fuel and make power. The Merlin, however, is a high-altitude predator. Its supercharger is a masterpiece of mechanical genius. Think of it as a transmission for the air itself. At low altitude, the pilot uses the moderate gear. A set of rotors spins, cramming air and fuel into the engine's 12 cylinders, giving it breathtaking power for takeoff and dogfighting near the ground. But as the Mustang climbs, as the air thins past 18,000 feet, the Allison would begin to choke. This is where the magic happens. A barometric pressure switch clicks. The Merlin's transmission shifts gears. A second, larger set of high-speed rotors kicks in. This full-blown or high-speed stage compresses the thin, useless air again, force-feeding the engine a dense, oxygen-rich charge it could never breathe on its own. An intercooler, a mini radiator, chills this superheated charge to make it even denser. The result? The Allison Mustang's 1,100 horsepower would bleed away to almost nothing at 30,000 feet. The Merlin Mustang, at that same altitude, would thunder with over 1,500 horsepower. It wasn't just a plane anymore. It was a rocket ship with a propeller. When the chief engineer at North American Aviation, James Dutch Kindleberger, sees the data from the British test flights, he doesn't hesitate. He bypasses bureaucracy and throws the full weight of his company into mass-producing this unholy marriage. In the United States, the Packard Motor Car Company, known for its luxury cars, has already been building Merlins under license for the British. They are given a new task: build the Merlin V1650 and build thousands of them. By late 1943, a new model Mustang is rolling off the assembly line in Inglewood, California. It's called the P-51B. It has the same sleek body as the Karton kite the Luftwaffe pilots knew, but it has a new, visceral, four-bladed propeller. It has an engine that doesn't just rumble, it screams a high-performance whine, and crucially, it has new internal fuel tanks and the fittings for two massive 108-gallon drop tanks. The Luftwaffe aces, cleaning their cannons after the triumph of Black Thursday, are blissfully unaware. They are focused on the heavy, lumbering P-47 seconds that can't stay long and the P-38 seconds that barely show up. They are still laughing at the cardboard joke. They do not know that the Americans have just solved the two most critical problems of the air war. The P-51B has the lungs of a Merlin, and it has the legs to run a marathon. It can fly from England to Berlin, fight for 30 minutes, and fly all the way back. The first squadrons of these new hybrids are now arriving in England, painted in the olive drab of the 8th Air Force. The little friends are about to get a lot bigger. December 13th, 1943, 26,000 feet, approaching Kiel, Germany. Hauptmann Gunther Metzler scans the sky, his eyes adjusting to the glare. Below him, the Jagdgeschwader is forming the stack, a massive aerial assembly of over 100 Focke-Wulf 190 seconds and Messerschmitt 109 seconds. Their mission: annihilate the American bomber stream heading for the Kiel U-boat pens. Metzler knows the American playbook by heart. He's patient. He waits for the turn back. Right on schedule, at the edge of the Frisian Islands, he sees them, the fat, lumbering shapes of the P-47 Thunderbolts. They waggle their wings, their job done, and begin their long, slow turn back to England, their fuel tanks nearly dry. Here, der Jäger. Metzler's radio crackles. Here come the fighters. The German pilots tense. This is their moment. The B-17 seconds are now helpless, just as they were at Schweinfurt. Angriff, meine Herren. Metzler barks. His Staffel rolls over, nosing down to build up speed for the head-on pass. And then, his Kaczmarek, wingman, screams into the microphone. Achtung! Jäger! Jäger über uns! Attention! Fighters! Fighters above us! Metzler snaps his head up. It's impossible. Nothing should be here. But there they are, a swarm of them. Long-nosed, sleek, four-bladed propellers, Mustangs. He laughs for a split second, a harsh, incredulous bark. Die Karton kites! The cardboard kites! What are they doing here? They are 300 miles from England, at 26,000 feet. They should be choking, wallowing, falling out of the sky. A new American voice, calm and laced with a Texas drawl, cuts across the radio channel. Red flight. This is Pioneer-led. Tally-ho. Bandits at 4 o'clock, below us. Let's go get 'em, boys. It's Lieutenant Don Pappy Smith of the 354th Fighter Group, the Pioneer Mustang Group. This is their first big show. This is the combat debut of the P-51B. Before Metzler can react, the Mustangs are on them. But they aren't diving. They are climbing. Climbing. Metzler, furious, selects his favorite targeter, straggling B-17, and prepares to dive. A P-51B flashes past his canopy. It's 6, 50 caliber machine guns ripping the air apart. The tracers are bright, angry orange. This is my sky! Metzler snarls. He breaks off his attack on the bomber and turns hard, pulling his foe 190 into the maneuver that had always worked. He yanks the stick back into a maximum performance vertical climb, forcing the Focke-Wulf up towards the sun. He knows what will happen. The cardboard, American will try to follow. His Allison engine will gasp, and he will die. 1,000 feet. 2,000. He checks his mirror. The Mustang is still there. 3,000 feet. He can hear his BMW radial engine straining. The Mustang is still there. 4,000 feet. Metzler feels a cold spike of panic. The P-51 is not just still there. It is closing the distance. Its nose is pointing up at him. It is outclimbing his FIRV, 190. Metzler stares in disbelief. The high-pitched, terrifying scream of the P-51's engine is now audible even over his own. That is not the rumble of an Allison. He knows that sound. He's heard it over the channel. It's a Spitfire? The P-51B, its Merlin engine roaring in high-blower gear, hangs on its propeller and slews into position. Pappy Smith doesn't even have to lead his target. He just has to point. A stream of 50 caliber armor-piercing incendiary rounds hammers Metzler's wingman. The W-190 doesn't explode. It is simply disassembled. A wing shears off. The engine vaporizes. Metzler throws his stick forward into a violent, life-saving dive, his insides crushed by the negative G. He plunges 10,000 feet in 30 seconds. The P-51 doesn't follow it, has a more important job. It calmly rejoins the B-17 seconds. When Gunther Metzler lands, his hands are shaking so badly he can barely unclip his harness. His report is met with stunned silence. The Mustangs didn't just show up. They stayed. They flew all the way to Kiel. They fought for 30 minutes, and they flew all the way home. The laughter in the Luftwaffe is over. The cardboard kite has grown iron teeth, and the American generals, seeing the mission reports, have just made a decision. They are going to stop hitting targets like Kiel. They are going to send everyone to Berlin, February 20th, 1944, 30,000 feet, over Brunswick, Germany. It is the first day of Big Week. The 8th Air Force has launched a staggering 1,000 bombers and 900 fighters in a coordinated, 6-day-long sledgehammer blow aimed at crippling the German aircraft industry. Lieutenant Don Pappy Smith is back in the sky, his P-51B, Red Angel, leading red flight. The bombers are miles below him, a vast, glittering river of metal. The sky above them is a seething mass of contrails. The Luftwaffe is here, and they are fighting with a new, desperate fury. The rules of engagement have changed. The German Experten, like Gunther Metzler, have a new directive from Reichsmarschall Göring himself. Destroy the escorts. The Luftwaffe has realized that as long as the little friends are present, the bombers are invincible. So, they must kill the friends. Pappy Smith breaks hard right, his Merlin engine screaming as he pulls 6 Gs. A Fokker-Wulf 190, painted in a bright, garish snake camouflage, flashes past his canopy, its 20mm cannons spitting fire. Bandit on your 6, red 2. Smith yells, his voice tight from the strain. He racks his plane around to help his wingman. The P-51B is a miracle. It's fast, it climbs, it turns. It can do anything, except see. As Smith wheels around, he instinctively jerks his head back. He's met with a solid wall of metal. The Razorback design of the P-51B means the entire sky behind his headrest is a massive, terrifying blind spot. Is anyone there? Is a 109 lining him up right now? He doesn't know. To clear his 6, he has to violently S-turn and kick his rudder, skidding the plane's tail aside just to get a momentary glimpse backward. But to do that is to stop fighting. To do that is to die. His wingman isn't so lucky. I'm hit, bailing out. Smith watches in cold fury as a Messerschmitt, Bf 109, its yellow nose gleaming, pulls up from beneath his wingman a classic attack from the blind spot and sends him spiraling down in flames. When Smith lands back at Duxford, he slams his helmet onto the debriefing table. I never saw him. This thing is a thoroughbred, but it's wearing blinders. The complaint is echoing across every American fighter base in England. The P-51B is a deadly fighter, but its Razorback cockpit, inherited from its original design, is a fatal flaw. The British offer a stopgap, the Malcolm Hood, a bulging, blown canopy retrofit that gives the pilot a little more headroom and visibility. But the engineers at North American Aviation have a more radical, more permanent solution. They don't just change the canopy, they redesign the sky. By March 1944, a new variant is arriving in England. It is the P-51D. From a distance, it looks similar, but up close, it is a revolution. The entire rear fuselage, from the cockpit back to the tail, has been cut down. The raised Razorback is gone. In its place, sitting on the fuselage like a drop of water, is a single, seamless, panoramic piece of blown plexiglass, the bubble canopy. The first pilot to sit in one is stunned. He is no longer a man strapped inside a 10,000-pound war machine. He is a hawk perched on the top of it. He can turn his head 360 degrees. There is no blind spot. There is no metal. There is only sky. He can see everything. The sun, the bombers, his wingman. And, Most importantly, the bandit trying to sneak up on his tail. The laughter of the Luftwaffe aces, long since silenced by the P-51B, is about to be replaced by something new. Sheer, unadulterated terror. The Karton kite, first given the lungs of a Spitfire, has now been given the eyes of God. And on March 4th, 1944, this new, all-seeing predator is about to fly its first mission, to a target that the 8th Air Force, until now, had only dreamed of attacking. The Big B. Berlin, March 6, 1944, 32,000 feet, 50 miles northwest of Berlin. The air is thin enough to kill a man in 30 seconds, but it is thick with the contrails of 2,000 airplanes. This is the largest formation the 8th Air Force has ever assembled. 730 bombers are flying to destroy the Erkner ball-bearing plant, the heart of the German war machine, and for the first time, they are escorted all the way by a swarm of over 800 fighters. Major Gunter Metzler, his rank now Oberstleutnant, grips the spade stick of his Focke-Wulf 190A7. He is no longer the cocksure Hauptmann who laughed at the Karton kites. He is a weary, pragmatic hunter. His face is a mask of grim determination, his eyes scanning the impossible armada. His orders are simple and suicidal. Ignore the fighters, break through to the bombers, at all costs. Behind him, his group is a mix of hardened veterans and teenagers with less than 50 hours of flight time. They are flying Sturmbucker, battering rams, Fu, 190 seconds, heavily up-armored with steel plates and bulletproof glass. They are slow, lumbering, and designed not to dogfight, but to fly straight through the bombers, 50 caliber defensive fire, their 30mm cannons primed to obliterate a B-17 with 3 shells. Set for attack, Metzler commands. Into them. He shoves the nose of his 190 down, aiming for the lead bomber box. He's bracing for the impact of the defensive fire, the chaos of the combat box, the frantic calls of his wingmen. What he isn't braced for is silence. His radio remains quiet. His airspace remains empty. He looks up. The sky above him, where the escorts should be, is gone. It has been blotted out by a cloud of single-engine fighters. They are silver. They are dropping from the sun like shards of glass, and they are all P-51Ds. Captain Don Suds Sutherland, flying a brand-new, unpainted P-51D from the 4th Fighter Group, grins. He is perched in his bubble canopy, his head on a swivel, and he can see everything. Look at 'em, boys. His voice crackles over the radio, lined up like ducks in a gallery. Keep the top cover. 3 and 4, 1 and 2. We're going down the elevator. Sutherland doesn't attack Metzler's group. He dissects it. Metzler watches in horror. A P-51D slides onto the tail of his Kaczmarek, a 19-year-old boy from Hamburg. Brake. Brake hard, Metzler screams. But the P-51D isn't a P-51B. The American pilot doesn't have to S-turn to see his target. He just sits there, 100 yards back, a picture of calm, his bubble canopy reflecting the sun. He triggers his 6, 50 caliber guns. The Sturmbock's armor, designed to stop, 50 caliber rounds, is useless. The P-51's guns are now concentrated in the wings, their fire pattern a tight, focused fist. The cigar saw of incendiary and armor-piercing rounds doesn't just hit the Focke-Wulf. It walks up the fuselage, from tail to cockpit, in less than 2 seconds. The heavily armored plane explodes in a ball of fire and black fuel. "He's on my 6!" another pilot shrieks. Metzler throws his Focke 190 into a hard, diving turn to help. But he can't find the attacker. He checks his mirrors. He cranes his neck. Where is he? The American pilot is right there, above him, watching him. Thanks to the bubble canopy, the P-51D pilots are fighting a 3-dimensional war, while the Germans are still trapped in 2. The American pilots can track a dozen targets, anticipate their moves, and position themselves with a calm, godlike omniscience. Metzler realizes the terrible truth. He can't climb away from them. Their Merlin engine in high blower will outclimb him. He can't dive away from them. Their clean airframe will outdive him. He can't turn with them. And now, He can't even hide from them. The Sturmböcke attack, intended to break the bombers, becomes a massacre of the fighters. The 4th Fighter Group alone shoots down 21 German planes without losing a single Mustang. The bombers fly to Berlin, they drop their bombs, and they fly home. When Metzler lands, only 3 planes from his staffel of 12 return. He sits in his cockpit, his engine ticking as it cools, and refuses to unstrap. He looks at the bullet holes in his own tail, holes he never saw being made. The report he files that night is not military, it is an obituary. The P-51D is the best fighter in the sky. It is faster, it is more maneuverable, and it can see everything. We are no longer fighting, we are simply being hunted. The Reichsmarschall is furious. The Experten are dead. The cardboard kite has just swept the Luftwaffe from its own capital, and the war is far from over. The final, bloodiest chapter of the air war is about to begin. April 11th, 1944, 10,000 feet, over Lüneburg Heath, northern Germany. The bomber stream is 15,000 feet above him, a distant river of contrails. Lieutenant Don Suds, Sutherland of the 4th Fighter Group, should be up there, weaving a lazy S-pattern, bored, his eyes aching from the strain of scanning the empty blue. That was the old way. That was yesterday. A new voice had given a new order. General James, Jimmy Doolittle, the new commander of the 8th Air Force, had issued a command that electrified every fighter pilot in England. You are to find the Luftwaffe and destroy it. Anywhere you find them. In the air. On the ground. It was a declaration of total war. The P-51 seconds were officially unchained from the bombers. They were no longer little friends. They were assassins. Sutherland glances at his fuel gauge. The needle is still well over half full. The bombers are safe for now. Okay, Blue Flight, he calls, his voice casual. Let's go down to the deck. Last one to the trees is buying the beer. He rolls his P-51D, Hell's Angel, over and points the nose straight at the earth. The Merlin engine's whine builds into an ear-splitting shriek. 20,000 feet, 15,000. He pulls out of the dive at 500 feet, his tires nearly brushing the tops of the tall German pines. The world, which had been a slow, frozen map, is now a green-brown blur rushing past at over 400 miles per hour. This is the Luftwaffe's new nightmare. They had thought themselves safe on the ground. At his airfield near Fassberg, Oberstleutnant Gunther Metzler is climbing out of his cockpit, his mission over. His group had tried to engage the bombers, but the P-51 seconds had seen them from 20 miles away. They were on them before the German 109 seconds had even formed up. It was a slaughter. Metzler had ordered the retreat. He throws his gloves onto the wing of his FUVU 190. His ground crew is waving at him, frantic. Hurry, Herr Oberstleutnant. Get to the bunker. Jabo alarm. Jabo? Metzler scoffs. Jagged bomber. Fighter bombers. This far inland? Impossible. Then he hears it. Not the distant rumble of bombers. Not the climbing dogfight whine of the high-altitude war. He hears a low, terrifying scream. A sound like a giant tearing a sheet of silk, getting closer and louder. He looks up. Skimming the treetops, coming at him, are 4 silver P-51Ds. They are not running. They are not lost. They are hunting. Sutherland flicks the gun safety switch to off. His bubble canopy gives him a perfect, panoramic view of the airfield. He sees the FUV. 190 seconds, neatly lined up, wingtip to wingtip. He sees the fuel trucks. He sees the startled faces of the ground crews, running for their lives. Tally-ho, boys, he whispers. Line 'em up. Metzler dives for a drainage ditch as the first P-51 opens fire. It's not a burst. It's a continuous, 10-second torrent. 6. 50 caliber machine guns, firing 80 rounds per second, turn the airfield into a hell of fire and steel. The sound is not rat-a-tat-tat. It is an earth-shaking row. Sutherland's tracers hit a fuel bowser. It detonates in a fireball that engulfs 3 Fokker Wolfs. His wingman, Shorty Rogers, calmly hoses the line of parked 109 seconds. his bullets walking from one plane to the next. The 50 caliber rounds, designed to punch through bomber armor, rip through the thin-skinned fighters as if they are, quite literally, made of cardboard. In the ditch, Gunter Metzler is covered in dirt and humiliation. He watches as Shorty Rogers P-51 pulls up, its silver belly flashing in the sun. On the side of the fuselage, painted in bright red, is the name Karton Killer. They knew. They were mocking him. In 90 seconds, it is over. The 4 P-stories, their ammunition spent, pull up and vanish over the horizon, heading for home. Behind them, Metzler's airfield is a junkyard. 22 of his precious, irreplaceable fighters are burning. His entire staffel has been wiped out, without a single German pilot ever leaving the ground. This scene is repeated all over Germany. The P-51 seconds, the Karton kites, are now the wolves. The Luftwaffe is the flock. There is no place to hide. If they fly, they die. If they stay on the ground, they burn. For the Experten, the war is over. All that is left is the dying. June 6, 1944, 10,000 feet over the Normandy beaches. You are back in the cockpit of a B-17, Murder Incorporated 2. But this is not Schweinfurt. This is not Black Thursday. The terror is gone. Below you, the largest invasion fleet in human history is touching the soil of France. Thousands of ships clog the channel. Tens of thousands of men are wading ashore. You are flying a bombing run in broad daylight, in a clear sky, at low altitude. You should be the easiest target in the world, and the sky is empty. An hour ago, a nervous voice on the radio asked, "Where is the Luftwaffe?" A calm Texas drawl, the voice of a P-51D pilot from the 4th Fighter Group, replied, "We took care of that. You just put your bombs on the target. Fellas, we'll handle the rest." The rest is a ghost. The Luftwaffe, which had dominated the skies of Europe for 4 years, is not here. It is not attacking the beaches. It is not intercepting the bombers. It is, for all intents and purposes, dead. The P-51 seconds, in a relentless and bloody campaign from March to May, had broken its back. Oberstleutnant Gunter Metzler knows this. He is no longer at an airfield. He is in a command bunker, his face grey with fatigue. He is a fighter operations officer. Now, a desk job. It is a promotion that feels like a burial. He has no group to command. The survivors of his Jagdgeschwader are now flying the Messerschmitt Me-262, the world's first operational jet fighter. It is a miracle weapon, 100 miles per hour faster than the P-51, but it is a miracle that has arrived too late. A report comes in. A staffel of May-2, 162 seconds, their fuel tanks nearly empty, are in their landing pattern at Akma. Metzler winces. He knows what's coming. Suds Sutherland and his flight, now veterans with scores on their kill boards, are orbiting at 20,000 feet, waiting. They call it the Rat Catcher Patrol. They let the jets land. The Me-262, with its fragile engines and slow-to-respond throttles, is helpless as it drops its flaps and landing gear. The P-51Ds, silver sharks in a bloody pool, simply drop from the sky and line up behind the helpless jets. They do not dogfight. They execute them. This is the final, humiliating legacy of the Karton kite. It has become so dominant that it is now shooting down jets. The statistics tell the final story. The P-51 Mustang flew only 15% of the 8th Air Force's fighter sorties, but it accounted for 49% of all air-to-air victories against the Luftwaffe. In the hands of pilots from the 4th, 55th, and 357th Fighter Groups, it achieved a staggering 17-to-1 kill ratio over its opponents. The P-51D, the cardboard kite with the British heart and the all-seeing eyes, had swept the Luftwaffe from the skies. It gave the bombers the freedom to destroy the Reich's war machine. It gave the soldiers on the beaches the freedom to advance. The laughter Gunter Metzler and his aces had shared in 1943 had died in their throats, choked off by the high-pitched scream of a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. They had dismissed the P-51 as a flimsy box, a Karton. But they were wrong. It wasn't a box, it was a coffin.